The historical record does not represent a linear, unbroken progression of events. Instead, it operates akin to a lossy compression algorithm. This process actively filters and significantly reduces information over time. Consequently, historical data is not perfectly preserved in its original form. It undergoes substantial transformation and reduction, impacting our understanding of the past. The 7th century is often misperceived as a dark age in historical discourse. This period was not an empty void, but rather a time of intense systemic stress and adaptation. It can be conceptually understood as a buffer overflow in a historical context. A buffer overflow signifies a system overwhelmed by an excessive amount of input data. This overwhelming input necessitates a fundamental reset or a complete restructuring of the system. Thus, the 7th century represents a period of profound societal transformation and reordering. The Byzantine Empire faced the threat of entropic collapse, requiring strategic solutions. They utilized the 4th century Justinianic archive as a foundational template for stability. This archive served as a comprehensive repository of past operational parameters. It also contained vital cultural data, preserving essential knowledge for the empire. The Byzantine Empire faced systemic crises, threatening its continuity and stability. To maintain continuity, the empire employed a mirror flip of data packets from the Justinianic archive. This process involved inverting or reinterpreting existing historical and cultural information. The reinterpretation allowed the data to fit new circumstances, simulating an unbroken historical narrative. The Byzantine Mechanism introduces a mirror flip concept for societal change. This mirror flip facilitates a hard reset of the underlying social hardware. It implies a fundamental restructuring of societal norms and institutions. This process is akin to a system reboot, altering power dynamics. The Byzantine mechanism can lead to the formation of a ghost state. A ghost state is an entity that projects an image of continuity and stability. However, this state fundamentally operates on legacy firmware or outdated systems. It simulates functionality by reconfiguring older principles and structures. Thus, a ghost state appears functional but relies on repurposed, older foundations. Paleographic diffraction is a conceptual framework for analyzing historical phenomena. It provides a method to understand complex historical events and structures. The core principle involves observing how different historical layers interact. These layers are seen to refract or influence one another over time. This interaction reveals previously hidden structures within historical narratives. The framework helps uncover underlying processes that shaped past events. The visual metaphor of vellum and mercury illustrates the nature of historical documentation. A 7th century codex's vellum is imagined to ripple, akin to liquid mercury. This imagery represents the fluid and unstable characteristics inherent in historical records. It suggests that historical documentation is not static or fixed in its interpretation. Instead, historical records are dynamic entities, subject to ongoing change and reevaluation. A crystalline structure from the 4th century is revealed beneath a rippling vellum. This structure serves as a visual metaphor for a foundational historical template. It symbolizes a more stable and idealized historical layer. This template underlies and influences subsequent historical periods. The crystalline structure represents a deeper, more fundamental historical stratum. The concept of inverted memories suggests that historical recall is not a direct retrieval of the past. Instead, it implies a process of reinterpretation or reversal of past events and figures. This mechanism is likened to a mirror flip in the reconstruction of history. Such a visual metaphor highlights the subjective and transformative nature of memory and history. A 7th century Byzantine chronicler's hand is depicted in the act of writing. The chronicler uses a traditional writing instrument, emphasizing historical method. The writing surface is not conventional vellum, but a translucent, multi-layered OLED interface. This OLED vellum represents advanced modern display technology. The scene visually merges ancient chronicling with contemporary computational processes. This fusion symbolizes the blend of historical record-keeping and modern digital information. The ink used by the chronicler is conceptualized as liquid chronos data. This liquid chronos data is depicted as flowing upward, defying gravity. This surreal element symbolizes the manipulation of time and information. It represents the ability to resequence or redirect historical data. The concept of recursive mirroring involves reflecting historical events through a new lens. A chronicler's eye reflects the 4th century Council of Nicaea, but with a technological inversion. Bishops are reinterpreted as faceless silicon entities. symbolizing AI or digital representation. This illustrates how technology can reinterpret and transform our understanding of history. Causal inversion analyzes historical periods by examining the capacity for information replication. The 7th century records are considered low resolution due to limited societal resources. This contrasts with the 4th century high-resolution Golden Age, which had greater capacity. The empire lacked the computational bandwidth to fully replicate its prior complexity. This indicates a civilizational safe mode, a tactical downgrade implemented for survival. Cognition analysis reveals a mirroring logic in historical statecraft. This involved inverting 4th century data to adapt to new realities. For example, expansionist theology was transformed into defensive mysticism. This inversion created a shadow of the state's former identity. This shadow served as a psychological anchor during transition. It facilitated a hardware replacement from late antiquity to high medievalism. Understanding historical reboots requires analyzing interference patterns between different eras. This analysis focuses on the 4th and 7th centuries, moving beyond textual interpretation alone. Gaps where historical mirror flips failed reveal phantom emperors and redundant conflicts. These inconsistencies signify systemic historical discrepancies, not merely isolated events.